So in today's video, we're going to be talking about eclipse season 2026, the first of two eclipse seasons. Each year comes with two sets of eclipses and two sets of two eclipses. So four eclipses per year, and the first eclipse will be occurring on February 17th. This will be, I believe, a partial solar eclipse, and it will only be visible from certain parts of Africa. But what's important to us today is that it will be happening in the sign of Aquarius. And it will be happening at the 20th degree of Aquarius. This is a new moon eclipse. And today in this video, I wanted to talk about what that means for each of the zodiac signs. And so your zodiac sign will be in the description, and you can skip to that any point throughout the video. Watch for your sun sign or your rising sign. Rising signs are generally the primary consideration for horoscopes, but you can also watch for your sun sign if you don't know what that means. And at the end of the video, I wanted to go over like the nuance and the techniques that I used to create these predictions. I'm going to be reading off my computer just a little bit too, and I'm kind of going to be looking down some. I'm not camera trained, so we're getting there. But today we're going to be talking about the eclipses. We're going to be talking about what that means for you, and we're going to be talking about like the general considerations, the general like how this event is like, whether it's good, whether it's bad, how you determine that, and what that means. But starting off, we're going to start with the sign of Aries. And so for Aries, this eclipse will be happening in your 11th house. And the 11th house is the house of friendships. And I feel like with the new moon eclipse, this eclipse is particularly constructive for Aries. And I would say that right now is a time you're examining your friendships, you're looking at the people around you, and you're picking through the people who support you, the people who are supporting your overall growth, and you're deciding, like, you're evaluating who you want to be there, who you trust, and who you want to be, who's there for you when things get hard or seem unclear. I feel like these are very, very key notes during this time and during the cycle, is like who is there for you in the dark, who is there for you when things are difficult, and who remains for like the difficult situation. You're just examining your friendships, you're examining like them with almost like a microscope is kind of the energy, but there is just an energy of examination around your friendships for Aries. For Tauruses, this eclipse will be happening in your 10th house, and the 10th house is one of the most significant houses in the chart and is at the very top. This is 12 o'clock noon. This will be one of the signs feeling this the hardest. This house is about career, fame, and public achievements. So, all very, very public things, all very serious things a lot of the time. Right now, you are beginning a 2 year long cycle of change in this area. This cannot happen overnight, but with continued effort, you can make the changes that you want to see in your life and in the life of others. I feel like with the 10th house and with eclipses, these are big changes, right? And this is really an opportunity to apply the changes that are happening into your life to the people's lives around you and to really share in what's going on. There's a gnat, of course, but to really share the energy that is going on. This cannot happen overnight. This is a time where you have the power to make things happen, and over the next 2 years, you will decide to do with that power what you decide. I'm sorry, over the next 2 years, what you decide to do with the power that you're holding, this excess of energy, what you decide to do with that will really have the power to shape your life. Gemini, so this eclipse will be happening in your ninth house, and the ninth house is that of learning, travels, education, and expression. Your life experiences will have the opportunity at this time to have a lasting impression on your life and on your aspirations, on your dreams, the things that you value, the things that you see as important. Look for good and exciting opportunities that excite you to move forward in life and create change. Focus on the experiences you want to have, and the way you understand spirituality will grow. And the ninth house really connects to what we're learning, what we're doing, our experiences, and our spirituality. A lot of times, like, our spirituality is really like it's crafted based on what our life's experiences are, right? And so I feel like that's the key over the next 2 years for Geminis, is that like your experiences will be helping to shape your spirituality, will helping to grow your spirituality, and will be teaching you a lot about yourself. Cancers. So this eclipse will be happening in your eighth house, and the eighth house is the house of transformation. And so this can be a very difficult house. This can be a house of ending sometimes as well, but whenever something ends, something new begins. And this is just a time, it says right now, the experiences in your life could feel like a delay or could feel like a delay to the life that you want. And so you may not be getting exactly what you want, or you may not be seeing like real tangible results over the next 2 years. You could feel like things are kind of coming on slow. The eighth house signifies a deep transformative experience, shared finance, and the parts of relationships that are deep and profound. And so when we think about the eighth house, it also has a connotation to like other people in our lives, the people we share money with, the people we rely on for money, shared resources in general. So, like if you're getting investments from people, those kinds of things. These are all at this moment going to be changing, going to be shifting, right? And a lot of times when we're like talking about investments and things like that, you don't see the results immediately. And so I feel like there could be like almost a period where it's like you're really having to rally for yourself. You're really having to build up the enthusiasm, build up the energy to get what it is that you want. Things happening now could feel like a dramatic ploy to distract you from what you truly want, but there is a reason for everything. This could be a time to slow down, look deeper into your surroundings. Things may not be as they first appear. And so I feel like that is also a big message. I wrote that, and I feel like that's a big message right now, is that things may not be exactly as they first appear. And it may take some like investigative work. It may take some like deep contemplation, internal thoughts, internal time with yourself to really discover what it is that's happening, what's changing, what's going on in your life. So, Leos, right now, you are entering a 15-year long period of transformation happening in your seventh house. As well, the next 2 years, there is a cycle of change happening here as well. The first house connects to the body, the soul, the sense of who you are. The seventh house is the opposite. This is the house connected to the other people in our lives, the relationships we share with them, and how we intermingle. That's kind of a dramatic way of doing it. But over the next 15 years, you will have Pluto in your sign. And this means that there is deep transformation happening in the lives of the people around you. The people around you are transforming your life and teaching you more about yourself. And as that is going on, we also have the eclipses. The eclipses will be here for the next 2 years. And so there's lots of changes happening in your relationships. And I just felt like I might be being a little bit dramatic, but that's, I feel like, a very important note. In relationships, there's a lot we cannot control, but one thing that we can always do is put our best foot forward. It is in this intense cycle, there could be a large focus on other people and the changes they are going through. This is a time where you have to stay focused on your side of the story. It could be easy under these transits to get lost in the lives of another. And so I feel like that really is like a good way of summing it up. Like I feel like I mean, not to toot my own horn, but I feel like that is a good way of summing this up. Is that there is the potential to get invested too deeply into other people's lives, into the changes happening around you, or into other things. And with just all that energy in your seventh house, be weary of getting lost in the lives of other people. Stay focused on your life, put your life first, and kind of remember to check back in on yourself. The only thing that you have control over is your side of the story. So for Virgos, the next 2 years will shape the way you work and your health. This is happening in your sixth house, which is another one of the bad houses. But a lot of Virgos love health. Virgos love hard work, right? Virgos love disciplined action and dedicated, like getting things done. So maybe it'll be good. You could be making major changes to your routine or work at this time. You could be noticing that something you have been doing has not been yielding the results that you wanted. And you are finding a solution to this problem in the coming years. It could feel like a lot of no's at first. And so I mean like no's, like a lot of people telling you no. It could feel like a lot of people at this time are really like there's a lot of no's. But what I want to encourage you with is that nothing comes easy and nothing comes easy. I thought I wrote something else. In life, I feel like one thing that I've learned from life is that like a lot of people are going to tell you no, and once you get that yes, that's what really matters. And so I always say that the road to success with anything that you do was paved in failure. And I feel like the next 2 years, not to like bum you out, but the next 2 years could feel like a lot of failure. But I feel like you're getting to something. There is something happening behind the scenes, not necessarily behind the scenes, but there is something happening in your life that will be profound, that will be lasting. And this series of maybe bumps in the road, are really like getting you there. I always, like I said, the road to success was paved in failure. That's at least what I tell myself all the time, is that like you have to fail, you have to fail, you have to fail before you figure out what it is that you're good at, right? As an Aries, I love learning from my own mistakes. And I just feel like that's an important message for Virgos, is that it may feel like you don't have a lot to learn, but there's a lot to learn in the mistakes. And I feel like that's important for Virgos to know. So for Libras, this eclipse will be happening in your fifth house, the house of creativity, romance, and children. To me, this signifies a period where you are relearning what you have lost from your childhood. So I always connect the fifth house back to our inner child, our inner self, the person that we wanted to be when we were a child. And I feel like right now, over the next 2 years, you are starting a cycle where you are reconnecting with that. What were your dreams? What were your aspirations? What did you want as a child? When we think about like childhood is kind of like a consistent thing, right? Everybody has the experience of being a child, and a lot of us forget that. A lot of us get lost in adulthood. A lot of us get lost in our life. And I feel like for Libras, you're coming back into contact with that energy. This is a time in your life to look for creative and exciting solutions to old or outdated problems. You could say that the next 2 years of your life will be a creative renaissance for you, both internally and externally. So even if you're not like an artist, right? We all go through like periods where we feel more inspired and less inspired. And I feel like the next 2 years, maybe you have a muse or maybe you have some sort of inspiration that will help carry you through um, whatever is going on, whatever is changing. Scorpio. So this eclipse is happening in one of the four major houses in your chart. The bottom of the chart, the fourth house, connects to our roots, our family, and the past. This is a difficult house as well. This is one of the other difficult houses. There are four houses in astrology. The fourth house is not the most difficult, but there are the eighth, the sixth, and the 12th. I think the second. So there's four houses. Yes, there are four houses that are the most difficult. This is not one of them, so that's a good sign actually. But this is one of the most influential charts. The past affects us all. The past is what we carry with us always, right? Our experiences are shaped by the past. The person we are today is created because of something that happened in the past, right? And this is a time where you could feel trapped by these topics, by family, by roots, or by the past. You are offered an opportunity to transcend what you believe to be possible. Something could be ending now, or over the next 2 years, there could be something in your life that you are forced to stop doing. You're forced to change. There is an ending of some sort that will happen over the next 2 years of your life. And this will really help you to see life from a different angle. Every ending brings a new beginning. And I feel like that is really what Scorpios need to hear, is that just because something is ending doesn't mean that a new beginning isn't right around the corner. There is that energy for Scorpios literally in the sky. It may not be like the most obvious or the most apparent. Sometimes it takes time. This cycle is a 2 year cycle. This is a cycle that will not happen in 2026. It will begin. This is the beginning of a 2 year cycle. And so this is something that's happening but will evolve, will change. And there will be all kinds of different things going on with this cycle. So Sagittarius, this eclipse is happening in your third house. The third house connects to our neighborhood, our thoughts, our communication style, and our siblings. And so these are all, if you think about it, like your neighborhood is where you come from, where you grew up as a child, but also like your neighborhood you live in now. This kind of energy is very, very active. This is a very this house is very personal to you in the way you of your expression. And so what I want you to think about during this transit is like how like your environment as a child has shaped you to be the person that you are, and shaped your communication style, shaped what you value, what you think about. Even there's that energy where it's like, how is your environment, how does the world around you over the next 2 years? I want you to think about like the room that you're sitting in, the decorations around you, the vibe of the room. How does that affect everything in your life, Sagittarius? There could be changes coming over the next 2 years to your style, the way you see your surroundings, or the use of your immediate resources. So, like the immediate resources are the ones that you have control over, right? That's kind of what I was talking about. This is a time to focus on doing more with less. And so I say that because the third house connects to like writing, right? And when you think about it, like it doesn't take a lot of tools to be a writer. It doesn't take like fancy computers or any of that. You literally just need your mind, right? We're talking about thoughts. We're talking about what is within you. And so I feel like this is a really good time for Sagittarius to really be focused on doing more with less. You could be realizing at this time that you have all you need to accomplish the goals that you have been um, previously, I think I wrote preciously, previously stumped on or felt stuck in. So if there's a goal that over the last, like, I would say 6 years, if there was something, maybe it's only 4 years, but through the last eclipse cycles, there has been a goal that you've been kind of stuck on, that you've been working on. This is a time where like you can think your way through it, you can work your way through it, and maybe the solution is easier than it seems. It's quicker to find. It's not as complicated as you could be making it. So Capricorn, over the next 2 years, you will be looking to do more with your money. And so this is a great message for Capricorns. Capricorns, I always say that Capricorns, if there's one thing you know about Capricorns, it's that they are going to show up for work tomorrow. There is that dedication. There is that undying like perseverance to come to work, to continue to do more, to continue to be a better version of yourself. And that is what Capricorn is all about. And when we talk about money, right? Money is a never ending battle. But over the next 2 years, I feel like you will be focusing on your money, your finances, and you'll be focused on growing that. This is a time to reassess your investment strategies and plan for the long term. The work you do now should be a focus on the future and on compounding growth. And so think like less like how can I do more with my time, and think more passively like how can your money do more things for you? Like does that mean hiring somebody? Does that mean hiring help in some way? Like what are ways that you can have more accomplished with the resources you already have that will in turn make you more money? That is kind of the vibe at this time. There may not be immediate results from your efforts you are making now, but if you plan right and act on the plan for the future, then those results will start to come. Aquarius, this is a time of intense inward change. The next 2 years of your life will be characterized by change. So, this eclipse is happening in your sign. And like I said, eclipses are a 2 year cycle. So, this eclipse will continue to happen at different times of the next 2 years in your sign, in the sign of Aquarius. When we talk about Aquarius, right, when we talk about the first house where this eclipse will be happening, this is all about your body, your soul, and very deep topics. And what I wrote is there is really two options right now. Lean into what is happening or watch this opportunity for growth pass. And I feel like that really sums it up really well actually. Change is inevitable, and right now the focus is on you, and so you are changing. What about you is changing is really the question. And I feel like the quicker you catch on, right, the more time you'll have to master plan everything as it goes. So this is a time to ask yourself what parts may be outdated, overlooked, or not working as fully at their fullest capacity. And so right now, ask yourself, Aquarius, like, what areas of my life are outdated? What areas of my life have I not been like checking up on? Have I not been paying attention to? What areas of my life are not able to work at full capacity? And think of a way to really get yourself to that level. How can you work at full capacity? How can you be the best version of yourself? And I feel like the next 2 years it will be quintessential to your life to focus on that question. How will you fuel your body? The first house as well as the sixth house, it's not as much about health, it is more about appearances. And so this could even mean like stylistic changes, changing the way you look, being more happy with your body, your appearance, workout routines, health routines, things like that are important because they have just think more like what do you need, I would say more at this time. Like what would benefit you the most? This is really a time to almost to be selfish. The next 2 years are kind of a time for you to be selfish, Aquarius, and really focus on you and choose the direction, choose to take control over the direction. Pisces, the next 2 years will be about recognizing your own subconscious patterns and acting upon them. What are you afraid of? This is a time to push yourself outside of your comfort zone and adapt to what you find beyond your own self limiting beliefs. There could be outdated relationships or circumstances in your life that are harmful to your overall growth and well being. This energy will be working in your favor to bring what is in the dark to the light and illuminating a better future for yourself. So, the next 2 years, the eclipse cycles will be happening. in your 12th house. And the 12th house is one of those difficult places in the chart. It is all about the subconscious mind. It is all about your mind. It is all about the way you believe things, why you believe things, the underlying principles, the underlying things, but it can also be about your dreams. And so I just feel like this is a time where it's like you're having to really dig deep and find like the tenacity to explore your own mind, to look inward, and to ask yourself the big questions. The 12th house can also be connected to like hidden enemies, right? It can connect to people who want bad for us, jealousy from other people, and things like that. And like, kind of like think of it in the way of like, why do we keep people like this around us? Why do we give these kind of people our attention? Why do we feed into that energy in the first place? And I feel like that's really the cycle over the next 2.5 years. It's like these kind of topics, some darker topics. You're analyzing outdated systems. You're analyzing the past. You're analyzing a lot of things like that. So this part of the video, I want to talk about like the considerations that I made whenever, or the considerations I looked at whenever making the predictions. And so this eclipse is happening in Aquarius, the ruling planet, the planet that has domain or like has home, the planet that calls Aquarius home is Saturn. And so whenever you're looking at eclipses, whenever you're looking at moons, whenever you're looking at planet condition, what you look at is where the planet is that owns the sign that a planet is in. So the sun and the moon are both in Aquarius, right? The sign that owns is a good word, is the word I'm going to use because it's a little bit more, it makes a little more sense. The sign that calls Aquarius home is Saturn. And so Saturn, at the same time as this eclipse, will be changing signs, which is a big deal because Saturn is one of the slowest moving planets in the solar system. Saturn will be changing signs from Pisces to Aries, literally, I think within days, if not the same day as this eclipse. When Saturn is in Aries, right? Saturn in Aries is ruled by the planet Mars, is in the home of the planet Mars. It's not the same thing as house. And I feel like that's really where astrologers make it kind of confusing. So they say home, like it's the home of the planet, but that has nothing to do with the house because planets don't have homes in a house. But I digress. Saturn will be in the sign of Aries and the home of Mars. And so the big players in this eclipse are Saturn and Mars. Saturn and Mars, if you don't know, are called the malefics, meaning that they are the evil, the doers of bad, the bringers of change. The doers of bad is a really like, that's kind of the meaning of malefic, is that they do harm, they do bad, they do malefic things. Think Maleficent, right? That kind of vibe. But what we have between these two planets, so Mars actually is in the sign of Aquarius, where the moon and the sun will be as well, and is then ruled by Saturn. So Saturn is in the home of Mars, and Mars is actually in the home of Saturn. This is called a mutual reception, and this is actually really, really important. This is like the most important thing that is happening during this eclipse, and characterize the entire predictions that I made. This mutual reception. The noticing of that is what enabled me to make predictions. Like I said, Saturn and Mars are the malefic planets, meaning the doers of evil, the doers of bad, right? But when they are in good dignity, when they are strong planets, and a mutual reception is what makes them strong, something like that. There are other options, but a mutual reception, there are options of how a planet can be strong. Rather than being all bad, it makes them very, very constructive. And so in my predictions, you'll notice that like I don't go to the worst case scenario, even though we have this big energy from these bad planets. It's not the worst case scenario at all. It is a very, very constructive and even it is pretty much a best case scenario for these planets. The only thing it could be better is if a positive planet was ruling over the eclipse. So like if the eclipse was happening in Jupiter and you looked at, you know what I'm saying? If like Jupiter and Venus had more play, that would be, I would say, the only thing that can make this better. But we have Saturn and Mars, and this is a very constructive thing. And so all of the predictions I made, you'll notice that like they had a very constructive tone. That was kind of the tone that I was trying to write with. Was very, very constructive. Was very like building. Was very much growth oriented. It may be difficult, but through hard work, it is accomplishable. And I feel like that is what's happening with this specific eclipse, and that is what's most important to note from this specific cycle, is that anything is possible, and it is very, very constructive. So I wrote the sun and the moon are being boosted by the beneficial powers of the mutual reception between Mars and Saturn. This is good. And then I wrote no good thing can come easy. but now you have the power to make something happen. And so I feel like that is a very important way of putting it. Like, you have the power under this event to make things happen. It just is not necessarily easy. We have Mercury and Venus are at a sign-based trine to the ruling planet, which is Jupiter. So Mercury and Venus will be in Pisces, and they are making a trine to Jupiter. This is actually a very, very lucky aspect. So this brings an element of luck and fortune, making the already strong energy more lucky, artistic, and loving. And so I feel like that is a very, very important thing to say about this cycle, is like there is a little bit of art to it. There is a little bit of magic. There's a little bit of love to it because of the beneficial aspect between Venus and Jupiter. These are the two benefics. The two benefics in astrology. There are two malefics, Saturn and Mars, and there are two benefics, Jupiter and Venus. And they are also in very, very good position. They are both in their exaltations. And so very, very good. And so there is that. It's just that is not as much that has not as much of an influence over the new moon as Saturn and Mars do. And so rather than being like all good, you see what I'm saying? It is constructive. That's really the best word I can use. Is constructive. That's the word I'm going to use too. It's constructive. So Neptune and Saturn are conjunct in Aries, and I feel like the major message from this is to not get lost in the past, not get lost in what could have been, right? When we talk about Neptune, Neptune connects to spirituality, delusions, illusions, and just like the harder to grasp things in life. And I feel like this is the time where you have the opportunity to get lost in the past, to reminisce, and to think about things that really don't matter all that much. And what I'm hearing in my head, what I'm thinking about is like if you watch TikToks, there's this girl named Becca Bloom, and she always says like, just because you've invested and invested and invested, it doesn't mean that you have to continue investing. Sometimes you can invest, and that doesn't mean you can't pull out at any moment. You know what I mean? If something's no longer working, it's time to pull out. And that is kind of what this is saying. Like, you might be tempted to just continue investing because it's like you've already invested so much under this eclipse. It's like, I've already put so much energy into this, I'm not going to quit. But that's not always the best answer. You know what I mean? There is a time to, you have to know, knowing when to pull out, and knowing that's kind of the game. And I feel like that's an important message under this eclipse, and that's an important thing right now. Focus on what is real and tangible. What can you see? What is really in your life? What are the tangible things around you? And stay grounded in reality is kind of a thing. I wrote the real intangible thing that will help you stay focused on accomplishing your goals and making changes at this time. Just remember, this is a very constructive eclipse. It could feel very difficult. It could feel a little difficult, not gonna lie. It could be a little bit difficult. It could be a little bit misunderstood. It could be a little bit hard to see clearly through the changes that are happening because of this eclipse. But what is important to remember is that it is constructive, and it's not a worst case scenario. And so that's very, very good. Like, that's a good note. That's good to know. Like, we all love to build, we all love new things, and it's not bad. So I think I'm going to end the video here. I kind of talked about everything I wanted to talk about in this video. Remember, the eclipse is only visible in Africa, and so don't try to chase eclipses. I've done that before, chased eclipses that were not happening in my region. I didn't know that was a thing until recently. And I think I kind of covered it. In my next video, I will be talking about the next eclipse, the pair to this eclipse that will be happening on the 3rd of March. And so stay tuned for that. I already wrote it all up. All I got to do is record it. But I just wanted this to stand alone. I'm going to make 2 different videos so they stand alone. And sometimes I post weekly horoscopes. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to be doing that anymore, the formatting with that. And if you want personal readings, they should be linked in my bio. There is a thing where you can find it's a link to a calendar, and you like select a spot on the calendar. It's $25, and it's a live astrology reading over Zoom. And so those readings are, you can keep them forever. We go over your entire birth chart, and you can ask as many questions as you would like the entire time we are talking. So it's pretty cool. It's a consultation kind of vibe, and I like doing them. I'm proud of them. Yeah, I think that's it.